Hello everybody, Dave Neal here, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. In this video, we have Bachelorette Katie Thurston explaining that at the age of 20, she found out the man who raised her, her dad, wasn't actually her biological father. It's an interesting story to hear. We're going to share that. Plus, she reveals some new information about fantasy suites with Blake Moynes, and all this and more on the Two Jews, One Gay podcast that Katie Thurston was on recently. Do me a favor, follow me on Instagram at DNeals, patreon.com/Dave Neal for behind-the-scenes bonus content, and bachelorrushhour.com for your afternoon Bachelor and entertainment news. Let's have a listen to life for Katie Thurston before and after her fame on the show.
So pre-film, it was very, I was very much comfortable in my career. I'd been working in the financial world for about 10 years.
That is so funny. I did not know we had that in common.
Yeah.
Are you responsible for the Silicon Valley Bank Club?
No.
Is that you?
No.
Individual?
It was not. Look, I'm from Washington. I don't even know what you're talking about. Don't come for me. But no, I was just very content, I think. And I think my next step was settling down, maybe having kids. And just kind of
Is that a question still?
For sure now. Yeah. If anything, now it's more I don't even think I want kids.
Wow.
Yeah. But the way I look at that is adoption's always an option for me. I grew up in a very unconventional way. My mom and dad were divorced when I was a baby. Then at 20, I find out I have a different dad than who I thought mine was. Yeah. So I don't have this deep-rooted tie of I need a blood child because I'm just the dad who raised me is my dad, you know, regardless of DNA.
Right.
And so
Did he know?
We found out together. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Wow.
What was that like?
Did you cry?
I mean, yeah.
Did he cry?
He said he always had a feeling once I hit my teen years because I have
23andMe has done a number to families. And look, there is a lot of shame that can come from finding out that your family isn't what you thought it was. There's a lot of family shame that has existed and it's buried and people don't talk about it. I found out, I was raised by a single mom, that my dad, I found out everything about him when I was an adult. It wasn't until I was 20 years old that I met my biological father. And it was fascinating. He was a guy who struggled. He was in the Vietnam War. He had post-traumatic stress disorder, and my mom couldn't have a functional relationship with him. And he suffered in his adulthood by not being able to hold on to relationships. And he, of course, passed away about 5 years ago from PTSD and Agent Orange and a long list of other things. Agent Orange was an exfoliant that was used and created by Monsanto, but used by our government to basically destroy the jungles of Vietnam so that they could see into the jungles and who their enemy was. It was a senseless war, and Agent Orange actually killed tons of veterans, and tons have suffered from that. And anyway, that was my story. So whenever I hear a story of someone not necessarily being who you think they are, or not being the biological this, or she looks different, slightly different from her siblings, it's fascinating. It doesn't have to be heartbreaking. It's just your story, Katie. You know what I mean? But it's always interesting to find out that, someone is just like the rest of us. And by that, I mean, has a family that's not as cookie cutter as maybe we all thought everyone was. Life's not that way.
I have a sister and we look nothing alike.
And it's okay.
I have very dark features. Yeah. Even in the summer, I get very dark, very tan. Yeah. And my sister's pale, freckles, straight hair. My hair's naturally very curly. And so, yeah, we found out together. Wow. That's a whole different story.
Yeah.
But yeah, so because of the way I grew up, which was just not your traditional
I'd love to know more in that story. This is where I would have pushed back and say, tell the story.
Mom, dad, and cookies.
Yeah.
I'm very okay adopting. So if all of a sudden I'm 45, 50, and I'm I really want a child, I'll adopt. There's so many kids who need a home.
Wow. Yeah, and I feel like there's more and more examples of women kind of taking the child, they're being a motherhood journey rather, into their own hands.
Yeah.
Whether it's adopting, we see a lot of people having surrogates without a father. Now. So I think that's super cool. So
now, I personally, having not been raised by a dad, I still think a healthy relationship with a loving mother and father is great, or father and father and mother and mother. Point being is, or mother, a single. The point being is that there's so many different ways that can exist out there, that one might be better for you or have worked for you and some other work for someone else. Sometimes the lack of, for me, the lack of a father, even though I had a great stepdad and that came into my family life, the lack of a father can lead to attributes and wanting a type, a world to exist a certain way because you didn't see it. I know people that had what appeared to be a great father, but they were messed up from it because in hindsight you see that the dad was overbearing and wanted them to be a great athlete, so then they had to move to the woods of in the middle of nowhere because they had to get away from their family. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There is no right or truthfully a perfect solution out there. Let's go to the 16-minute mark and we're going to hear a little bit more about Katie's journey in Bachelor.
That is such a good question.
Lazy.
God,
I can't even juggle the benefactor.
No, reality TV is like its own unique situation. You know, I think I was, and this was like the hard part. I was so open to all these guys because I wanted to be like so real.
Right.
But you don't have time to make it real. You have to really like hone in on like who's your like favorite two, you know, and focus on them. But I was just like, I want to get to know all of them.
Right.
And that's probably like kind of what made it harder because like then you have to like dump these people and then you're like crying and I was crying all the time, you guys.
You were?
Oh, big time.
That would be me. I'd be a crying bachelorette.
I cried a ton. You don't get a lot of sleep. I felt like I was only eating like Lunchables because like
charcuterie.
literally, but like the fancier brand, like it's like a Black Label. I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah,
like
I know what you're talking about.
Hillshire or something.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
That elevated. I'm like, no. But yeah, it was a crazy time.
Were you drinking? Do you drink a lot?
Tons.
Do you get to pick the snacks or no?
I mean, yeah, like they take care of you because they know you're about to be fucked up.
Right.
So they're like, whatever you need. I wanted Chubby Hubby ice cream from Ben and Jerry's. I was in New Mexico filming. For whatever reason, New Mexico demographic did not want that ice cream. So they could not find it in those grocery stores.
Oh no! Did they ship it?
They shipped it
my
in
God.
from another state. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So like they do a really good job at like taking care of you.
Yeah, it's true. They take care of you so that when the show decides to like rip you apart, you kind of like have this Stockholm syndrome.
Really in love?
The question was, were you really in love with Blake Moynes?
In the moment, yeah. Like but you're in this bubble. You have no phone, no family, no friends, no real life. And so we got engaged. I think it was like in April, but the season finale didn't air until June. So we had to be like in hiding, which meant we couldn't live together. We couldn't go on dates. They coordinated these like special like meetups where we got to like
These conjugal visits?
they're literally just like fuck dates. Like they rent like an Airbnb in LA for like 4 days. All you do is like eat, fucking sleep.
Yeah.
So you're like on a permanent honeymoon. And then that's why like once we got into like the real world and got to like test it out, which was like around August, September, that we're like, all right, let's test it out. And then like we just like crashed.
Oh, like quickly.
Quickly, very quickly. We're just like, oh, we are not compatible. Our friends aren't compatible. I remember I brought Blake here to San Diego and we did an escape room. I'm a big escape room girl.
I've never done it, but I know I would love it. I love a puzzle.
I need it. That's the
So Blake didn't pass the vibe test as far as Katie's concerned. And this is part of how this is just how it has to work. It's nothing against Blake. He just wasn't a good match for Katie in the real world.
Vibe check. If you can't do an escape room, you can't marry me.
That is Katie Thurston's first date. So you see if you pass muster. Can you escape? And what's your success rate for escaping?
Have you ever not I don't know about escaping, but it's about the vibe. You know,
I see.
Because it's
like you've done them and haven't escaped.
I have escaped. How dare you?
No, I'm saying no, but like you've done them. Like so, like I've done escape rooms. I have a perfect record.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Sometimes I have not escaped.
There we go. That's what I was looking for. But no, that's such a good thing.
It's fun.
Competitive.
Teamwork.
Yeah.
My friends are with us. Yeah. You're not taking yourself too seriously. And I just remember like doing this one with Blake, and he was just like not into it. He was like in the corner drinking, like drunk, because you got to be like drunk or high when you go.
Yeah.
Don't do them sober, guys.
No.
And he's like in the corner. He's like, I hate this. He's like pulling out a padlock. I'm like, bro, you got to find the key or the combination.
He's like such a buzz.
He like quit before
he literally. And I was like, we're not, you know. And anyway,
that's what did it.
No, but what did it though was he went to Africa, which I knew was like his big thing. He's a big animal like advocate, you know.
That's cool.
Which I actually think that's a red flag. I know on other podcasts, because I have listened, you said that was a green flag, and I think it's a red. I think people.
If men are too into animals.
I think if men are too into animals, like.
They have a dark past.
Okay, I will say,
I
don't know if I said this before, during the fantasy suites, which is like the first and only time you get to spend the night.
And by the way, I completely disagree with the host of this podcast. I don't think that being into animals is a red flag. Good grief.
They're overnight. There's no cameras, no mic. We did watch some kind of like Animal Planet something, and he cried. And so
I support men emotionally.
no, we love it. We love
We support men emotionally, but we're going to laugh at them. All right. Okay. It's a comedy podcast. I'm being too harsh.
and emotional and whatever. We love that.
Yeah, we
But-
love men expressing themselves.
I think women love the idea of men expressing themselves, and this is a generalization, but I think a lot of times they have a hard time handling it because they haven't seen it much in the past. So I know this from my personal relationship, that as much as my wife would love it for me to be emotional and share, whatever I'm feeling, I also know it's tough for her because she's like, oh my gosh, I'm not used to dealing with this, our parents, but so many people's parents don't shed a tear till like the day they die. And it's like, how sad is that? I'm a big crier. I watch American Idol, I cry. If I think the American Idol package is going to be like a sob story, guy's about to sing a song for his dad who had a stroke, tears, done, crying. Girls singing a song. We had that lovely teen who sang a song for her brother who had his own mental issues, crying, just pouring out tears. If you want my American Idol recap, the last 2 episodes of Bachelor Rush Hour podcast, I played all of my favorite clips from this week's episode of American Idol. So go check that out if you're into American Idol.
But I was just like,
Love it.
like I just feel I think I was like one of those were like an example of like, damn, like I actually don't know you because you are so passionate about this, and I'm just learning.
Oh, interesting. But yeah, you were surprised.
Yeah, and I'm like, we're supposed to fuck in like an hour. So are you okay?
Wipe the tears.
Chin up. The elephants are gonna be okay.
Drive this before I commit.
But at the end of the day, like I think he was just so into it that like I don't think I was fitting his like top 3 priorities. He went to Africa, and then I remember him telling me like, oh, like I might not have service, but like watch my stories and see what I'm doing. And I'm like, what? I'm not a fucking fan. Watch your stories. Text me. I'm your fiance. Call me when you have service. So it just we weren't meshing. And I think we were very much on different paths. And I mean, I support him. I think what he's doing is great. But like, I just don't like. We only knew each other for like 24 hours.
Yeah, different paths. As simple as that. No need to sort of dissect it any farther. All right, folks, let me know what you think. Katie shares her family surprise. I think it's very healthy that she's discussing these types of things that are sort of like obviously Bachelor adjacent topics. So many people that watch this show just want that instant tea. Tell me what Greg Grippo said, all this stuff. But to me, the humanity is more interesting, finding out that she, a celebrity, is just like you and I. Isn't that nice? Let me know what you guys think. If you want to check out the American Idol recap and all the other stuff I got going on the Bachelor Rush Hour podcast, click below, bachelorrushhour.com. We'll be back with more after this.